the potential was so high. At first it was difficult for me to decide which adaptation to do for this video, but then once I actually said it out loud, just one movie came to mind. And it made my blood pressure rise higher than your grandfather's would if he was at a hip-hop star's bachelor party inside the Playboy Mansion, but not in a good way. And that film was Assassin's Creed. In order to make this video possible, I had to actually force myself to watch it. If you haven't had the pleasure of getting your finger slammed into a car door or a cabinet, it hurts. Really fucking bad. If someone were to give me the choice between watching this film again or getting my finger slammed in a car door, I would definitely go with the latter. You see, my first time attempting to watch this poor excuse for an adaptation was only a year after it came out, and it was also a failed attempt. I wasn't able to get more than 40 minutes into the film without shutting it off and continuing to go about my life. I didn't think it was possible for me to be more upset than I already was, but now that I'm older, I am very much even more upset about this film. God, the potential was so high. Now before we get into that, I'd like to emphasize how much love I had for Ubisoft up until 2009 when Assassin's Creed 2 came around. I mean, Prince of Persia for PS2 changed gaming in its own respective way, and it added some really interesting elements that we hadn't experienced in gaming prior to that. I'm willing to bet my virginity that it was the inspiration for the Uncharted series. There was a time where I would bleed for Ubisoft. However, times change, as do relationships. Alas, we grew apart, fair Ubisoft. I went on to bigger, better fruitful relationships, while you, oh dear Ubisoft, you continue doing the same old thing you always did. Cliché dialogue coupled with a large serving of tedious open-world busywork. And you sprinkled one-dimensional characters living in a bland, run-of-the-mill open world on top of it and asked us to consume. And now, fair Ubisoft, you've been broken up with so many times, you've forgotten your own identity. Now that I've said my piece on Ubisoft, we can move on to the train wreck of the production they greenlit in 2016. Assassin's Creed the movie is the equivalent of the dirt you find under your nails after a long day of shoveling horse shit at your creepy old cousin's farm. Michael Fassbender was the absolute worst choice anyone could have gone with for the lead. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing the guy's acting abilities, but some people are just meant for the right role, and he's a pretty damn good Magneto. I don't exactly understand why they had to show the kid doing the stupid things and the stunts on the bicycle in the beginning where he was bleeding. Surely the writers could have come up with a more creative way to convey that this kid is daring, but hey, I wasn't there to micromanage. The first hour of this movie feels like the Magneto prequel we never got. Despite coming directly from a successful multi-video game franchise, surprisingly this movie has no identity. I can't tell if this movie was too overly analyzed or not thought about hard enough. The entire film is just recycled scenes from major motion pictures. I saw so much plagiarism and recycled scenes, there was a moment where I truthfully forgot what film I was watching. I thought Magneto was in The Matrix and he had gone back to the future of Rome. The dialogue is bland, the subtext is virtually non-existent, the characters are boring and have no chemistry with each other, and the story is subpar and takes way too long to unravel. The fact that they had 5+ game storylines from the successful games at this point to choose from that were already proven to work, they still chose to write an entirely new storyline, inserting a goofy character like Callum Lynch, and utilize only fragments of the game's core mechanics to maintain its levity. I mean, this just baffles me completely. Especially when they had such fascinating characters from the games to use. I would much rather have seen the story of Desmond Myles, and not because we have the same last name either. That character grew. He had fears, and then he overcame them. I never cared about a single character in this film. How could I? They were all one-dimensional cardboard cutouts. Can you relate to a one-dimensional cardboard cutout? Of course not. It's a fucking piece of paper with only a surface and nothing beneath it. The movie was way too much about Callum and not enough about the assassins and lore itself like it should have been. This franchise has so much material to propel itself on that the insertion of this character and his generic history adds zero value. In fact, it takes away from the film drastically. I didn't give a damn about his mommy issues. It felt forced, almost like they needed to integrate that story because they couldn't come up with a better family dynamic to weave into the story. All it really did was take away from potentially the best parts of the story unfolding in fresh new ways that we haven't seen before. But nope, it seems generic is easy. It's safe. It's not what anyone wants. So stop it. Stop embarrassing yourselves. Stop wasting precious studio money. Stop ruining our favorite video game franchises and creating new subpar stories. We like the ones we were given already. Why did they cast Michael Fassbender in this? It was bothering me so much that I needed to know who the casting director was, and I needed to know what other projects they had casted for. Turns out Gina J is the casting director, and she's casted for some pretty excellent films in the past. She's also an Emmy nominee herself, which is insane. After looking at her resume and seeing that she casted for films like Dune, Lobster, Black Mirror, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it just didn't make sense to me at all. Then I saw it. There was one other credit that stood out to me that she had casted for, and then it all made sense. Do you know what the other project was? Fucking Halo. Bingo, light bulb. Now I get it. It all comes back to the source material. Nobody understands. Or nobody gives a fuck. That just goes to show you. You can be the greatest casting director in the world, but still do a terrible job casting if you're not familiar with the source material. Clearly, this casting director is not in touch with the gaming world. I said this before in my last video. It's not any harder to make a video game adaptation than it is from a book or even a brand new spec script that came from thin air. What matters is the people you put on the job and the positions you put them in. Source material is so important, and clearly it's the make or break between a good adaptation and an embarrassing one on someone's good name. Why did you go in the direction of PG-13? The games are established on nothing but murder and violence for mature audiences only. What the fuck were you trying to accomplish here? If your goal was to try to end the production of all future video game adaptations and scare Hollywood into never making another one, you nearly did it. But gamers find a way to sway the industry, we do. I really wanted to say at least one positive thing about this film, so here goes. It made me laugh when he was standing on the roof at the end overlooking the city with his buddies behind him. He looked really uncomfortable, like he was waiting for the director to yell cut or something. Soon we will get the adaptations we deserve, my fellow consumers. Whether it's from me and my production company that are the ones to deliver the true adaptation we deserve, or more people will be inspired to deliver the true adaptations we deserve. Either way, it's going to happen moving forward, because gamers find a way. Some would even argue that the gaming industry has risen to the caliber of movies and TV. One thing's for sure, gamers find a way. Because those films and production companies will be run by gamers. I think things might start to change a little now that the success of The Last of Us is so apparent. Well, let's hope so anyway. Alright, well the video's over. So, until next time I guess. Bye for now.